I'm originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I went to undergrad at Oklahoma State. So it is very nice to see not only all my Boston members, but also prospective students. So hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Black. I am also a 2L here at KU Law. And yeah, what was the questions? Do we have specific questions that we were supposed to answer? Bryanna?
Oh, no, just an introduction. Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm not going to ask you to do like the top 5 things about yourself or anything. So whatever you want to talk about.
And so, yes, I'm from Wichita, Kansas originally, and went to Wichita State University. So never left Kansas, which is kind of lame of me, but I'm happy to be at KU. So
I can go next. My name is Bria. My pronouns are they or she. I'm a 3L this year. Very ready to be done. I'm originally from Woodstock, Illinois, which is a northwest Chicago suburb. I did my undergrad at Iowa State. I was there from 2012 to 2016. And then I worked for 2 years, 1 year in insurance claims, and then another year, pardon me, at a real estate law firm before going to law school, just to make sure that that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, that's me.
Hi, everybody, prospective students. My name is Brandon Locke. I'm a 1L. So I guess if there's any other fellow 1Ls on the call, I'm about closest to where you guys are at. And so maybe I can provide some insights to you that are unique to the 1L experience in these times. But I'm coming from Dallas, Texas. I went to Southern Methodist University for undergrad. I graduated in 2018. Worked a little bit down in Dallas in the aerospace and defense industry, and then decided to come to law school this year. So I'm very excited to be able to talk to you guys today about my experience and all about KU Law.
Hi, my name is Saber Hosseini. I was born in Iran. I grew up in Wichita, and I also went to Wichita State. And I worked for a number of years as an insurance broker and some other things. And then for the 2 years prior to law school, I did fundraising for the Midwest Innocence Project. So now as a 3L, I'm interning at the Leavenworth County Attorney's Office. And like Bria, I am ready to be done.
Awesome. I also went to Wichita State, so don't know if I know that Olivia knows that because we spent some time together on another Zoom before. But all right, so what Cortez and I talked about is I can give a brief rundown, so I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to make it very short though, because I really want you all to be able to just ask questions and for there to be a very open conversation. But if you are new to the idea of KU Law, I just wanted to give you something to think about. And then if you have any admissions questions, feel free to ask me and I will drop my email in the chat. We will also be reaching out afterwards with, if you're applying soon, you can get a fee waiver. And also, if you have any further questions for any of the BALSA members, I'm sure they're happy to talk to you out of a group Zoom meeting. So I will go ahead and see if I can share my screen, maybe. This is always the worst part. Okay.
Rita, can I piggyback really quick on what you said about the fee waivers?
Yeah.
And, so my mentor's firm, Leverage Law Group, out of Overland Park, has a fund where they will sponsor LSAT costs as well as LSAT prep courses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are actually putting together an app for that for the 2022 year, I believe. I think that Lauren Lurs is working with Leverage on that. But yes, also, if you are interested in that, talk to Saber. Are you open to talking about that with people? Okay, I guess I just volunteered.
What was the name of that group? I'm sorry.
The law firm is called Leverage Law Group. But if you've got any questions, hit up Cortez or you can email me at saber@ku.edu.
Got you. Appreciate it.
Got it.
All right. Can y'all see that? Okay. So that's fancy, little graphic. Okay, we are located in Lawrence, Kansas, which is about 45-ish minutes from Kansas City, and about 20 to 30 minutes from Topeka. Topeka is the capital city. Kansas City has an international airport, which is great because you can fly in and out relatively inexpensively. And we have all of the major airlines, including Southwest, which is great if you're trying to visit family. I'm not quite sure where everyone is from. If you want to drop where you are coming from, where you're thinking of coming from in the chat, that would be great. So we can kind of talk about that as well. Lawrence is big enough to have 2 Walmarts and a Target, but small enough that you will see people that you know on the street, on Mass Street during like non-COVID times. We have small class sizes. It's a 7-to-1 student to faculty ratio. And I think a really interesting number is the median class size for upper level classes is 15. So that's a pretty small number. We try to keep classes small. Your incoming class would have around 100 people coming in with you. It's 100 to 110, and that is intentional. And then we have mentoring support. You're assigned a faculty advisor when you start. And then there are also 3-to-1 student clubs and Dean's Fellows to help you out with mentoring needs. There's also a program through the Career Services Office, I believe it is, where they will pair you, if you are interested, with a attorney mentor. So you can actually meet those people and shadow them and things like that. We have 7 certificate programs. How I describe certificates is that they are kind of like a pathway to get you to practice the area of law that you want to practice. Everyone graduates from KU with a JD, but a certificate is just a way to kind of map out your courses to make sure, okay, if you're interested in like family law, you're going to want to take advocacy courses. If you're interested in criminal law, you're going to want to do the advocacy skills. If you're interested in doing tax law, obviously tax law, and you can kind of plan your courses that way. It's just an easy kind of like grab bag for picking the courses that you want. We also have numerous joint degrees. If you're interested in those, please reach out to Steve, who is my boss, or I, and we can talk about how to get admitted into those programs. If that's something you're interested in, I highly encourage you to try to start that process as early on as possible in your first year, so we can get you set up to do what you need to do. Experiential education, the things in bold, those are clinics. And the things that aren't in bold are the field placements. So what is the difference between those? Well, clinics are held in the building. So the legal aid clinic is physically in the law school building. The Project for Innocence is also in the law school building. Tribal Judicial Support Clinic and Mediation Clinic as well. But if you want to get experience outside of the building, then you can be involved in one of these field placements as well. The Project for Innocence has been around for over 50 years. And I'm sure we will talk about that tonight because I think it is extremely important and amazing what they do. So, but this is kind of just some experiential education that we have. KU really tries to give you hands-on learning. So they care about your finances. So 80 to 85% of incoming students receive some sort of scholarship offer that ranges from $2,500 all the way up to full ride. We lowered our out-of-state tuition by about $10,000 2 years ago. We've kept tuition the same for the last 2 years, and that is intentional. Obviously, COVID occurred. So we are very cognizant of individuals' finances. One of the really cool things that they did after I graduated, I'm not bitter at all, is they enacted the free bar prep class program. The rates that I looked up earlier today are on the side. That's normally how much a bar prep program costs if you are paying for it out of pocket. KU Law kind of realized, hey, this is a burden on our students. This is not something that they need to be paying on a payment plan while they're going through law school on. So they partnered with Bemis and we take care of it for you. It includes all of the other prep that you see on this slide. So it's not just your bar prep, You also have to take a professional responsibility course when you're going through law school and take a test for it. And so that kind of helps you with that as well. We do have a 6-semester in DC program. Obviously, this past spring, we were unable to complete that program fully, but it is not meant to be a job track program, but it ends up being one every year. 2 years ago, 6 students did it and all 6 got DC job offers. So some pretty good stats. If that's something you're interested in, we can talk about that tonight, or if you want to talk more about it later, I'm happy to set up a meeting about it. These are all of these student groups that are currently listed as active on our website. So there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm sure that the BALSA members can talk about how much free, well, this year's different, but how much in the past free pizza and Chipotle and student meetings they can go to. A lot of them occur over lunch, but there are also events that are held outside of school hours. It's just a really good way to get to know your classmates because those are the people that you're going to be practicing with when you graduate. Those are the people that you're going to want to call if you have a problem. So environment is very important. And these are the updated stats. Class of 2019 employment rates, and the reason we don't have 2020 is because it's based on 10 months after graduation. We're not there yet. So class of 2019, 93.1, and that is kind of the map. And once I am able to exit out of this, I'll be able to see everyone's answers or where they live, but that's out of over 8,000 KU Law alums. That's where they all kind of end up in the United States. There are also individuals that practice outside of the United States. If that's something you're interested in, I can get you those stats. But the DC area, which doesn't even look like it's on this map, is over 250 attorneys. So if you want to go to Alaska and hang out with 15 other KU Law alums, you can do that. Or you can go to Hawaii. I would probably pick Hawaii, but that's just me. And I think that is it. Yay. Does anyone have any questions about that specifically, or for our ambassadors and BALSA members, because some of them do both?
One thing I noticed in the chat was that we have a couple of folks from Houston, Texas.
Oh.
Yeah, which shout out to Houston. So one thing I forgot to mention was before coming to law school, I worked for a few years in Houston. So I moved to Kansas from Houston as well. So Houston people, if you specifically have any questions about like what that's like, let me know.
Concerned about the weather in Kansas? Well, it did snow a couple days ago, but does anyone want to talk about their weather experience if you moved here from outside of Kansas?
I can speak to this a little bit. I'm coming from Texas too, and I was very, very worried about the weather as well. So Brandy, I get where you're coming from on that. It is right. It did snow this week, but it seems like the weather is very, I don't know. It varies from day to day. I think that's something common that people who are from Kansas have told me. So like today, it is way less cold than it was on Monday. So it can change on a dime. I would say bring a coat definitely, but it's actually not that bad. It's not like what you see up in, at least maybe we haven't gotten there yet, but it's not like what you see up in the very north, like in Minnesota or places closer to the border of Canada, where it's like feet and feet of snow. I think it's more manageable here in Kansas. So and actually for the most part, before we got to late October, the weather was like consistently 70s all the time, very beautiful weather. So I would say for the most part, it's actually very good weather with a few bad days in between. So I wouldn't be too concerned with it. I was definitely where you're at. I was a little concerned coming from Texas. Dallas gets a little bit more snow than Houston does. but still not a whole lot. So it was something I needed to prepare for. And as long as you bring a coat and some gloves, you should be all right.
If I may, I guess, could I ask everyone that's currently attending KU, I guess, a general question? We just kind of saw like the slide with all the different, admissions criteria and things like that. What would you say is like, I guess, the number one thing or like a very important factor in like your decision to come? Was it like the bar passage rate, employment rate, location? Like what's cost of living? Like what's a huge thing for you guys, I would say?
I can speak to that, Antonio. I would say first and foremost, the cost being the most important thing for me. And then second of all, I knew that it cost a lot of money for the bar prep. Mm-hmm. And the fact that KU like paid for that, like kind of influenced my decision. And then I think I just felt like when I visited, it was like, I just felt that there was community here. So that kind of all swayed my decision.
Yeah, I'll just back up Olivia's statements. I really came for the community broader than just the student organizations, because I think that I found like some of my best friends, some of my lifelong friends through student organizations on campus. I also want to address the comment that was in the chat about the open door policy. For me, that was the biggest game changer. I applied to 14 different law schools. I had no idea where I was going to go or what I was going to do. So I figured, let's just apply to as many as possible and see what happens. And I remember going to other law schools, and there's one law school in particular that had this brand new building. They just invested millions of dollars into it. It was gorgeous. It was lovely. It had everything, except all of the professors were in a different building across the street under lock and key, and you couldn't talk with them without having a pass to get through security and an appointment. And I didn't like that at all. When I came to visit KU, like it really is an open door policy. Professors' doors are literally open. And the way that the library is set up, all of the offices are there. So on many occasions, I would be sitting at a study carrel and a professor would be walking to class to or from their office or whatever, and would stop and just say, hey, what's up? Like, what are your plans for the summer? What are you doing? What are you interested in? And that was one way for me to develop a lot of different connections to professors in the building. So I think that the open door policy at KU is not a joke. Like it's very real. It's very there. And it's very embedded within our community standards. So that is the norm. And I think that's really cool because you already have such small class sizes. You get to know your peers, but you get to know your professors on a different level, which can come in handy when you're looking for jobs and you're trying to find that perfect practice area. So it really is unique at KU in that way. And if you have the opportunity to go visit, I'm not sure what the cycle looks like. If you have the opportunity to go visit schools, make sure you're asking about that. Make sure you're asking about the community there. Make sure you're asking about open door policies, because I think what you'll find is that they are not the same everywhere, and they probably aren't going to meet your standards while you enter law school, which is going to be hard, and you're going to want that support there.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I can speak to specifically is if you're coming from out of state, you're going to be very hard pressed to find a school that is as good as KU, that is as affordable as KU. KU's out of state tuition for students is very, very competitive. Like Bria, I applied to many different schools, got scholarships in some, didn't get scholarships at others, and just across the board, schools better than KU were charging more and for out of state, and then schools that were lower on the rankings, if you go by rankings, were charging more than KU as well. So I mean, that price that Bria talked about, it being discounted 2 years ago, that is that's a scholarship in and of itself. So if you get in and get accepted, the discount that KU gives you right off the bat as an out-of-state student, you're going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard to find a school that is as competitive as KU is on affordability. So that's definitely a plus for KU, I would say. And then I don't want to I can maybe address the atmosphere post COVID with you, Brandy. As a 1L, the majority of my classes have been in person, and I would say that KU has gone above and beyond to ensure that students are in person for their classes. And I think it's sort of necessary in your first year of law school. It'd be very, very tough to do it all online on Zoom. And so as long as the protocols continue to work, I would assume that next year, if that's when you're planning to apply, they'll be trying to do the same for you. And so I'm physically attending pretty much every single class in person every day of the week. And, not all schools were doing that. Some of the schools that I applied to, other than KU, were saying, we're not going to be in person this year, and there's no guarantee that we'll be in person next year either, just because of the way their facilities were set up and how their faculty wanted to proceed with the coming years. And so KU's gone above and beyond, and that's not necessarily universal across the board. So KU is unique in that respect. So yeah.
I will speak to Brandon's point. Like, I feel like 1L year, it's important to be in person. But if, like Bria, she just said that she was immunocompromised, so obviously she can't attend classes in person. But I will say that at the beginning of the semester, KU said, do you need internet? Do you need a computer? Like, what resources are you lacking? So that way we can help you no matter what, to help you get your education, which I really appreciated, because you don't know what someone is experiencing outside of law school. So the fact that they even thought as far as to provide us with Wi-Fi and computers speaks to KU and its resources.
And I also chose to complete my coursework this semester all online. And I mean, it's presented its own challenges, of course, but I think overall, if that's, I mean, I'm assuming that option would be available for one else who needed that option too, right? So in my experience, my professors have, done a really good job of checking in with us. Some of them have even instated, mandatory check-ins just so they can kind of know how we're doing. Not even just like academically, right? But just as people, how are we doing? So I think overall, in my experience, professors are also trying to make sure that whether you are online or if you are in person, that you're having a reasonably comfortable experience during this time.
I'm just going to point out a couple other things. Our chancellor is actually, the chancellor of actual KU is a doctor, which I think is very helpful. And they kind of addressed it very early on when they started realizing COVID was going to be an issue. The plan for the spring is to keep going like it has been. And I anticipate that if COVID is still not under control, that would just keep occurring. So they're very cognizant about the health and safety of not only the students, but also the faculty, because there are some faculty members that are also immunocompromised, and they are teaching from home as well. There are some other questions in the chat. And I also saw that Saber had unmuted. So if you have something to say, sorry about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with to Antonio a couple of the reasons why one of my buddies came in from out of state to go to KU. And of course, Brandon kind of spoke on this heavily, but just the affordability of it was a big deal. But two more points. One, KU, especially because of its basketball program, is just so well known across the nation that it's like this huge boost to the already pretty good ranking that it has. So that helps a lot. And in fact, like anytime I'm traveling and I've got like a KU hat on or something, man, I'm telling you, just people want to talk all the time just because it's KU. And then the third thing with respect to the professors, now, everyone spoke of how accessible they are and how, friendly they are. But the crazy thing though is just how amazingly qualified they are, and the education levels that they have and the things that they've accomplished. I mean, it's really remarkable.
Another piece of that affordability that I think is important is aside from just the the tuition savings there, but also finding housing in Lawrence is really, I mean, it's super affordable. Um, I mean, like where I'm staying right now, I wouldn't have been able to afford to stay here if I was still in Houston. It just wouldn't have been a thing. It's housing is a lot more affordable. I can't speak to how much like the average apartment cost is, but to kind of put into perspective, it's reasonable if you need to have like a house, for example. That's doable. I mean, I'm not trying to speak for everybody, but like it's more doable here, I'm trying to say, than it is in many other places. I also saw a question about professor to student ratio. I don't know the exact numbers. Bryanna might know those like exact numbers, but what I can say is one of the cool things about KU is that you're split up into small sections during your 1L year. And so in your small section, there's like a group of like 22 to 25 students or so that you have, all of your 1L classes with. And so it's like, your legal research and writing class might just be that group of 20 something students, and then your, I don't know, like criminal law class might have two small sections put together, but still it's like a pretty small number. And that's helpful because it helps you to kind of build those relationships with people, get to know people, and then also as several people have already mentioned, because it's smaller groups like that, it helps you to be able to get to know your professors, helps your professors get to know you as well.
I dropped it in the chat, but the number that I'm most recently aware of was 7 to 1. So yes, it sounds really impressive, but yeah, 7 to 1. And that's partially because we have very small, we try to keep the incoming classes relatively small. And that helps you out with career opportunities, getting to know the career services members as well. So there's a reason behind that.
Just going to piggyback off of what Cortez said about small sections. And as a 1L, one of the things I was a little bit concerned about coming from out of state to KU Law, I was worried that I didn't know anybody and that it would be tough to make friends, and find people that that I could hang out with, at the law school, outside of the law school. One of the best things about the small section format is that literally entering into KU, into KU Law, everybody is so friendly, and it's new to everybody. The experience is new to everybody. Nobody that's entering in with you has really gone through the program before, and so everybody's overly nice, overly wanting to connect. And so it didn't take but a day, to make friends that I've become really good friends with since in just a few months that I've been here in my first semester. And so, the 25 or 20 people that are in my small section, we all in a group me, we're in group chats, we, send memes back and forth. We go through the hardships together. We, have fun on the weekends sometimes. And so, it's been great. And then if that's something that you're concerned with, coming by yourself to Lawrence, Kansas, and you've never been here before, and you don't know anybody, and you're worried that you'll be isolated, you're not isolated for very long. KU puts people together in orientation, puts people together in these small sections, and you make friends instantly. So I would say that it shouldn't be that big of a concern for you.
I saw a question about internship opportunities. I know Saber and Cortez and I can speak to a couple of those things. My first summer this year, so I just completed my 1L year and I internship for a judge, and that was amazing. And I still talk to her to this day, and she literally would like bend over backwards for me, which I so much appreciate. And actually KU Law set that up for me, and I did it through a judicial field placement. And I will speak to the fact that it will look really good on my resume, the fact that I internship for a judge, and she gave me the opportunity to increase my legal writing skills, my legal researching skills, So I think that that is beneficial. And then I also, KU Law will send people on flights. If you don't want to stay in Kansas, they have opportunities for you to go to career fairs outside of the state, and they'll actually pay for your travel and room and board, if I'm not mistaken. But Bryanna can correct me on that.
Yeah, so if you need to visit, well, right now we are not doing in-person visits. And to kind of give you a little bit of background, I'm not even allowed to go into the building because I'm not essential. So I only go in when I absolutely have to. And so we're just not doing in-person visits. We're trying to keep the law school kind of like a bubble. So right now, sorry. But typically, if you are admitted and you need to visit, that if you talk to us, we can see what funding we have as well on the visit side.
Also, to Olivia's point about internships, so I also worked in internship this summer. My background is in science, so I was thinking, I'm more interested in intellectual property or patent law. I also think I might want to dabble in tax law. I'm not sure. We're trying to figure that out. But so essentially, though, I'm more interested in working for, maybe like a company or maybe a university, something like that. So this summer, I interned at a mining company in the Kansas City area that has operations all over the U.S. and in a couple of other countries. It was a really good opportunity. I learned a lot of kind of like practical skills. I mean, of course, in class you learn how to do your legal research and all of these things, but being able to actually have attorneys ask me, what are the rules regarding some random concept, and they're expecting me to find the answer to that and give them which way they should go. It was really good opportunity, and like I found this opportunity through our career services office, so they do a really good job of helping you. You can meet with them and let them know what it is you're interested in, let them know what part of the country it is that you would prefer to practice in. And as long as you are kind of maintaining connections with them, letting them know your interests, they'll even reach out to you and let you know if they come across something that seems, like it would fit your interest. They're also available, of course, to help with resume help. Last winter break, I was actually on a little vacation to treat myself after my first semester of law school, and I saw this internship opportunity that I didn't end up getting, but I was like applying for it, and I needed my resume to be reviewed like last minute. And so I think it was like a Friday or a Saturday, and so I emailed one of the folks career services. And they got it back to me really quickly, actually. So they definitely care, and they're definitely available to help you meet whatever your career goals are.
And I'll add to that and say that also faculty, they work really hard to get people set up with, opportunities that they're interested in. And also KU is really good about getting you set up with alumni mentors. And they are also very helpful when it comes to finding internships or jobs. My fiance had her 2L summer job rescinded because of COVID. And the monumental effort that the professors and that my mentor and her mentor put into finding her jobs, she ended up with 5 different jobs this past summer because of the effort they put into finding her something. So, everybody cares. Everybody has an interest in making sure that you get to do something that at least is interesting, at least useful, I should say, if nothing else.
I want to kind of ask about, I guess, the Black experience at KU, since we're in the Black Law Student Association. I look at the ABA report and I see that it's a very, very, very small Black amount of students that's actually coming in. And going to the College of Charleston, which is, I think it's only like 8% Black, I believe. So I'm used to that. but I feel like when I'm in class, there's kind of like this preconceived notion, especially when you're talking about Black issues, racial issues, that anytime like the only Black person in class speaks, they're talking on behalf of all Black people. Do you feel like at KU, anytime you get into those, if you're, whether you're in criminal law or whatever, do you feel like you are speaking on behalf of all Black people? And if so, do you feel like that's added stress, or do you use that as an advantage to you, or would you rather not feel like that? Like, what's the experience there? I would assume it's not that many Black people per classroom, based on the numbers.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think this ties into another question that was here was, how does the school support minorities? Speaking from my experience, my 1L year, my first semester, I was the only Black student in all my classes. That wasn't the case the second semester. So, I mean, that does provide, its own challenges. One of the things, and that's definitely something that, I was even thinking of, and I'm guessing probably everybody else will agree to that too. That was something they were thinking of when they were choosing law schools as well. Ultimately, when I came and visited the school, I also met with some Black students who were here at that time, and one of the things that they kind of shared with me was, like, no, KU does not have impressive numbers of Black students at this time, but it's like, if we don't get more Black students here, then it makes it harder for us to, to like get more Black students. So that was one thing he told me. And one thing that I can say is that, we work really hard to try to make sure that we have a strong community within ourselves as well, recognizing that when we do leave law school, it's going to be, as was mentioned earlier, it's going to be the folks that you build relationships with that are going to be the ones that, are going to refer business to you, that are going to, provide recommendations for you, that kind of thing. But in terms of support for Black students and minority students, there's absolutely room for growth. I will say though that the administration is accessible to the concerns of students, and is open to conversations, if that's helpful.
I would just speak to the classroom experience. I think that many of our professors recognize that issue, and don't allow us, well, this is just my experience in the classroom, they don't allow us to go through those things or speak to those things. But I haven't experienced all the professors at KU, so I can only speak to the ones at KU to where they understand my experience and they make sure to not allow those things to happen where I would feel isolated in another room where a professor doesn't care. All of my professors understand and know almost like what it's like to be the only Black student in the class. And so they're not going to point you out and ask you, like, what do you think, Olivia, being the only Black woman, talk about criminal law. What is it like? Like, no, I've never had that. And I appreciate my professors for not putting me in that situation, because that is something I hate. Like, I never want to be put in that situation. It's embarrassing and it makes you just feel like very uncomfortable.
There's also, like, kind of to that point too, there's a professor here, Professor Yule, and she teaches like property law. She teaches like business organizations, amongst other things. And specifically thinking about her class, what I really like about it is well, I mean, besides the fact that she's just a great professor, but she structures her class in such a way that it forces students who maybe wouldn't have to think about, issues of race, issues of class, right? Like all these other socioeconomic status, right? She forces students to consider that and how that has shaped our laws, how that shaped, how laws are applied, things like that. So there are definitely professors as well who are very cognizant of that, and they make it a point to ensure that students are, grappling with that, in addition to learning the laws.
Yeah, and I think I can add from a 1L experience. I'm in criminal law right now, and Professor Stacy, I got to hand it to him. We sort of made these sort of topics, racial disparity in the criminal justice system. He put those to the class, and it was just an open discussion. We were talking about things such as the Breonna Taylor case. We were talking about other things, and he brought statistics, he brought receipts, he brought all that sort of stuff. And so it's not like they totally, leave the issue untouched as if it doesn't exist. He's well aware of the racial disparities in the criminal justice system, and he actually fostered an environment where we were able to have an open conversation about those types of issues. So you don't have to sort of sit in the class and not talk about those issues, and you're thinking, okay, why aren't we talking about this case or that case, or why aren't we talking about how it's different for people based on race? It was a topic, and I was surprised that it was a topic right in my first semester. So it's not like you don't go through your first year without talking about some of those issues, which I found to be good, because I like discussing those issues, and people who aren't, like Cortez said, people who aren't thinking about that sort of thing. I like how they sort of they had to think about it.
Besides like KU Law, do you guys have any general questions just concerning like law school and its process that you guys can think of?
Is it true, I guess, that I hear this a lot from, I don't know, different people, that the first year is, I guess, the hardest, I would say? Or is it maybe you not knowing how to study the way that you do now, if that makes sense?
The saying goes, the first year they scare you to death, the second year they work you to death, and then the third year they bore you to death. So that's all across the board, every law school, no matter what, that's just kind of what it is. So your first year you will be scared, but it's just like a part of the learning. Like, it's an amazing experience when you get past that hill, because you're like, I did it and I killed it, and then second year it's just like, oh, I thought I had it, but I still got some wiggle room to grow. So it all around is just a learning experience, and you do learn so much about yourself when you go through it. And I don't know, like first year was definitely not the easiest thing, but like overcoming it and realizing how much of a person I've developed into, and how much of how I've developed as a legal writer and different things that is required as an attorney, I already see the difference, and I'm so excited to just see where it continues to go.
I would say it's a challenge for sure. You sort of get thrown right into it. Your professors day one, they're asking you to read these cases and brief them in a way that they want to talk about in class. And it's all very new to you when you start out. But I would say like it's a very rewarding challenge, because as soon as you start to get a hang of it, as soon as you start picking up how to actually be a good student in law school, you surprise yourself with how much information you're able to retain and how smart you can actually get if you really put in the work. So it's definitely hard, but even in these few months, I've surprised myself with how much I'm able to recall, just off the top of my head. It's so much information. You're thinking, how would I be able to possibly remember all this stuff? How will I be able to possibly, retain this knowledge? And you honestly surprise yourself. And if you sort of lean into the challenge and accept it, and you're like, okay, how far can I really take this? Like I said, it's very rewarding, because you surprise yourself on how much you actually, how much you're able to learn.
Yes, I'd like to jump in a little bit. Like, I was late to the party because I had to put my kids to dinner and to bed and stuff like that. But there's a question in the chat about, like, someone said they were worried, but like they were concerned. It was a big concern for them because they're an immigrant, but I don't really know what that concern was. I'm an immigrant as well. Like, so it's like if I have a background of like what the question was, what makes you comfortable, I probably could help address it a little bit. I think it's Ola.
Well, while you wait for her to maybe add a little bit more to that, Zoensky, maybe you and I can chat about this a little bit, because I'm also an immigrant, but I came here much younger than you. And I don't know, I think so, like Zoensky and I, we connect in different ways. We have a common background of being immigrants, but I also, you know, feel like a Kansan and an American and stuff. And like, I mean, I think you and I, we've had a very similar experience at KU where like, you know, we get along with everybody. I've never felt on.
Absolutely, like that is a very, how receptive people are towards immigrants. Like people don't really like, you know, it's like they don't really treat you different because you're an immigrant. But I'd have to say though, it's like as an immigrant, there's a lot of things that you don't know about the Black community here in the US in general, and there's a lot to learn in terms of like culture, like culturally, like I think that was the main difference. And people would instantly pick me out and tell me like, hey, you're not African American, like, well, you're African American, but you're not American. Like they'll instantly pick out because of like, or like my behavior or like, you know, like mannerism and stuff like that. They'll point that out. I mean, I don't know what's so different about it, but it turns out like there's certain things I would say and they're totally rude. I shouldn't say them. I didn't know that, and like it was a huge learning process. But generally, what I love about, well, I would say law school in general, people are like always willing to correct you if you're receptive of receiving those feedbacks. So like when you say things that are inappropriate in your culture, that's appropriate, but in here it's like not appropriate, they help correct that. And I think like sometimes like you think because like you're an immigrant, like you'd have a lot of setback in terms of how you address issues and stuff like that, but it's really not like that. And people are like generally very receptive of you, and especially like Balsa even like when I was first coming in, that was like my group, my go-to group, and everyone will like welcome you with a very open hand. And like it's not to say that they'll treat you different because you're an immigrant compared to whether you were born here. So I think that's a big plus I've personally experienced here at KU. It's like, you know.
There was also a question about when will folks start studying for the bar exam? Saber, Zoensky, y'all might be better positioned for that one.
You know, what's cool is there's a class being offered in the spring, and basically it's just called like extended bar prep or whatever. And it's just Friday afternoons. I think it's done by, I guess it's like 3:30 to 5:30 or something. And basically, I think the standard bar prep schedule is, you know, folks start studying hardcore like right after finals or right after graduation or whatever, and they just hit the books hard for 3 months till the test in July. But at KU, since we have this option to take this class and kind of get a head start in January, I mean, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's basically what I'll be doing as well. Like I'll take that bar prep course, and then for because my wife is also in school, so it's like when we're done with school and stuff like that, we'll get a stay-at-home nanny and just watch her kids because we have like 3 kids. So it's like, and then I'll just be studying all day. So that's the plan for now. Like, so that's what we'll be doing. So starting January, we'll little by little, and then the hardcore studying starts in like late May, early June. So, yeah.
Also, at the end of your 1L year, the KU Law has you take a diagnostic just so that you can kind of see. I think the way they phrased it was like if you were to take the bar exam at that time, kind of where you are, just so I think that you know that the school kind of knows in terms of if there's going to be or if there might be a need for you know special attention, you know, as you progress, but also so that you kind of know where you are as well. So I don't know, Saber and Zoensky, like I don't know if in y'all's experience so far, if you feel like the diagnostic was, you know, really indicative of anything or not, but it is something that you do take at the end of your 1L year.
How old do you remember that, Zoensky?
You know, like I was so burnt out after my first, I was like,
It was like right after finals too, and we did that. But I liked it because it was all multiple choice, and so it was just for me it was a nice break because all the finals were essay. You know, the bar is a mix of both formats, but it was interesting. I mean, for us, frankly, it was more of like an entertainment thing, and you know, everybody, you're not supposed to compare grades or scores, but for my little group of friends, it was fun just to compare scores and just talk about stuff like that. But I agree with Cortez that it is useful in the sense that it almost gets you to think about that really much further in advance than you kind of need to. And then the other thing that you would consider in terms of when do you start preparing for the bar exam, in a sense, you really kind of begin in earnest if not your 1L year, your 2L year, because you can choose to take classes that are subjects that are tested on the bar. And so you might be a person who chooses to prioritize those types of courses rather than other courses.
Something else I think is important about KU law specifically is, so I know we talked a little bit about like the student to professor ratio, but I visited some law schools, you know, where it was like you would be in this massive lecture hall with, you know, like over 100, like 200 even students at some of the schools, and that's definitely, you know, not the case here. It's a lot smaller, which is nice. And kind of to this whole point of, you know, kind of like a strong community. You know, sometimes there are like horror stories of people at some schools where, you know, people have like ripped pages out of their textbooks and stuff. Like, I mean, at KU, I mean, so we have like study carrels where, you know, you can have, if you want to have a study carrel, leave your stuff at your, you know, at your desk in the law school if you don't want to take your books and stuff home. And like, I mean, that's never a concern of anybody doing anything, you know, anything like cutthroat like that. I mean, it's law school, so it's competitive, of course, but it's not like you have to watch out for people trying to, you know, sabotage you.
I will second that actually, because one of my concerns before starting law school, since I'd read all these different discussions about it and talked to different people, was, you know, like people are just SuperGunners and they're in their quest to be the best, they will sabotage others and, you know, tear pages out of books or whatever. And this was actually a discussion with me and some of my friends recently, some other 3Ls, and we were talking about how that was kind of the impression we had coming into it, and we have never experienced anything like that. I mean, of course, you have people who are like really in it, making the grade, but never in a way which would hurt other people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That is very special about KU, and also what Cortez was saying, the professors have like, they have the open door policies. Like you can go into your professors and speak to them. You know, they're very, very, very nice. You know, it's like very welcoming. Makes you want to learn. I'd basically say that. You see, like the professors here at KU actually care about, are you learning this material? You know, and I think that's a plus and something you could like consider. And like the students as well, they also care about how well you're doing, because hey, you're part of KU. It's like a whole family. So I guess.
That's right. We're going to be each other's network later.
So,
absolutely.
So I'm a Dean's Fellow, and so essentially I take on a small section, which is like about 25 students of 1Ls. And actually, Brandon is one of my little 1Ls, but essentially I mentor them and help them go through the semester, make sure that they have everything they need, which I'm not for sure about other law schools, but I think it's helpful. I utilize my Dean's Fellow a lot, asked her a lot of questions about homework, about finals, showing them outlines and things that were required for all final exams. And I think that was really helpful. And I think also they brought our small section together because she would host different like events so we could all get to know each other. And so I think that is very unique to KU, and it helped build my experience here.
We are kind of coming up on the hour mark. So as I ask if anyone from also wants to drop their email in the chat, feel free. Otherwise, again, we will reach out after the event is over, probably tomorrow. But if anyone has any other questions, now is the time. Brandon, that is a cool email address. At first, I thought you were joking. I was like, what?
No, that's it.
That's awesome. All right, I will give it another minute or so. If anyone has any closing remarks, feel free. And that way you all can copy down email addresses, and then we will call it a night.
Toss in if anyone who watches this later or is on here just listening. As far as non-traditional students go, I kind of had, I was a little bit nervous about starting as a 33-year-old as a 1L, and I had absolutely no issues. Zoensky, he's not quite as old as me, but he's a family man. He's got 3 beautiful babies and a wife and stuff, so he's a non-traditional guy. And I mean, I don't know why I'm speaking for him now, but but he's thriving.
You're good. You're good.
Kicking butt.
And I should have asked this already. If there's anything specific that you want us to send you in the email, like about any specific stats for KU, any specific programs, please feel free to put them in the chat. A lot of times we do spend a lot of times on these talking about programs. We didn't do that a lot tonight. So if there's something that you want to get more information on or talk to somebody that's in that program, please let me know either via email or in the chat so we can get that set up for you. Cool. Well, I will stick around just to see if any more chats come in, but thanks everyone.
Thanks, y'all. It was great talking with y'all.